Jai Hind. This is especially for the Pharm D 6th year students who are going to go out in some amount of time, maybe 3 months, 4 months, out after completing their internships, and they'll be attending interviews. So now, these are some basic aspects. I'm not going to cover in this topic the entire thing on what is going to be an interview and all those things. Some simple tips from now on, so that in the next 2 3 months we cover on all the required uh, tips and support services for attending an interview. Whatever may be the in the job that you choose to apply and to get into, maybe it is a clinical pharmacist, it may be clinical research, it can be pharmacovigilance, or it can be anything in the perspective of PharmD's future, right? So there are certain general things which you need to be aware of when you get into the industry, because what we study is one thing and the industry is the other thing, and you need to bridge both of these things. And that's why you have undergone the clerkship, the internship, and all those things to understand and to have a practical view and idea on what is going to be the industry like, where you are going to work. Right now, the first thing is to make a profile. They call it a profile, they call it a resume, they call it a curriculum vitae, they call it a biodata. Now, what are all this? These are all profiles in different names. But of course, a resume is a very pointed one, a very specific one about the professional aspects of your career, your objectives, your skill sets, which is written for a specific purpose. It may differ for a clinical trial company. It may differ when you send it to a pharmacovigilance, which it may differ when you want to send it to a medical writing or scientific writing, or it may differ when you want to send it to a clinical research or a clinical pharmacy post. It all depends on whether you are going to write it to a hospital, whether you are going to write it to a CRO, whether you are going to write it to a pharmaceutical company, or the particular job in which you are going to be you are interested, or you are going to be placed. And so that will be very specific to it. This is called as a say a resume. And a profile is something which has all the details, so all this can be called the profile. These are different names. Now, what is a curriculum vitae? A curriculum vitae is a bit detailed than a resume, detailed kind of thing than a resume, which may include some personal information also, which is not so specific. Probably the students, when they go out for the first job as a fresher, may not have anything that specific to write, and so they can put their projects, this, that, and their personal skill sets and all those things elaborated to 1 or 2 pages, and then it can be called as a curriculum vitae. And when you talk of a biodata, again, it is going to be customized based on the field and the requirements and other things. It's going to be a very long thing. It will contain more of a personal profile and data rather than the only professional aspect of it, which is used by skill based people more, because they're the individual person's interests and the personal things are also going to get into picture more than the professional requirements for their business or for the career or for the post that which they apply for. So all these are profiles. So you need to make a very very clear profile or a resume or a curriculum vitae of yourselves, which includes 5 things. Basically, the contact information, where they can contact you. You should be active and alive in the given email ID or the mobile number where they may contact you. So the contact information is very important. Next is your one line objective to describe about you or your objective, and then comes your educational qualification, then comes your skill sets, and you can explain about, in case you have some experience in terms of projects, internships, or other things, you can explain about your work experience or a little bit of experience. These are the 5 most important things. Now, as Pharm D, what do you need to focus over here is what are your major learnings. If you are going for a clinical pharmacist course, what are your major learnings in the hospital? You can talk about that. Or what are your interest areas? You can talk about that. You can talk about the projects that you have done, the publications that you have done, the total amount of impact factor. Say you have published, say, 3 journals or 4 journals, or 4 manuscripts have been published so far. So you can talk about your impact factor, the total impact factor, say point 0.6, point 0.3, point 0.1, and 1. So you can say my total impact factor is say 1.2 or 2.1, like that. So that when you are going for a medical writing job or a scientific writing job, to a pharmaceutical company talking about a product description or something like that, it matters a lot about your publications, which journal you have published, and are you capable of conducting a research and publishing it yourselves. And so that's the reason I keep telling to every Pharm D person from the second year that you need to get involved into the research. So from second year, if you start smaller and other projects, some data collection and other things, you can do go up to a randomized clinical trial at the end of the fifth or the sixth years, which is going to add value to you. So you would have experienced, from a case study to a randomized control trial to a meta-analysis or a systematic review. So all kinds of studies, observational, descriptive, comparative, all this kind of studies could be done based on the evidences ranking which you get. So from case study to a randomized control trial or a meta-analysis, you could have experienced. So these are the things which are required. And your audio and video should be in sync. What you have written in your resume or curriculum vitae should match with what you are talking. You cannot say I want to be a clinical pharmacist there, and you are sending it to a clinical research company, and in that clinical research company you are going to get a post of a patient record officer or something like that. So what is very specific for that interview, you have to customize your resume. You cannot make one resume and send it to all the job profiles. See, you also have got some skill sets which may suit for a clinical pharmacist or for a researcher or for an see, for scientific writing or for medical writing, the language is very important. And so when you're good at your languages and you know more than one language, like say a regional language, Tamil, Hindi, English, Malayalam, Kannada, so like that, there are certain posts in hospitals where for medical tourism they appoint people who know multiple languages, who can interact with the patients and get the proper details, rather than having a person who do not know their language. So language becomes very important, language skills become very important. The same way, the software skills, the way you can use your Microsoft PowerPoint, the Excel, the Word, and you can show some pieces of work that you have done already. The journals in which you have published will talk about your language, because the good journals will not accept poor language or poor grammar related things. So that things can be spoken. Now, the most important and the first question, which is the most important question, with which 50% of the interview is over, or the person judges the person who is sitting in front of you, the interviewer will be interested in the first question. Now, wherever you go after reading the profile or something, as a fresher, is they would try to understand how good is your knowledge on the subjects that you have studied. So before even that, the first question is, tell us something about yourselves, explain about yourselves. So you can explain about your personal life, you can explain about your professional aspirations, your goals, your objectives, your qualities, your skills, and everything. So that is the first question which you get to make an impact. And so if you fail to make an impact there, it's like the first impression is the best impression, and 50% of your standing a chance of getting to the next round or getting selected may not be okay. Now, nowadays companies do not do just an interview, they give a post and they tell you to work on the job for 1 week or 10 days time, and the superiors assess and then asks you question, and then they try to assess you. So one part is the interview. When we cross even that part, the next part where on the job we have to be there, we have to use our skills and other things. So the interview scenario is changing. The interview scenario is not going to be the same. With all these things, we should be ready with the subjects that we have studied. They might ask you what subjects you are comfortable with, which are the subjects which you loved the most, which is the highest subject in which you got the ranks, how many research works you have done, how many publications you have done, how many individual publications you have done, how many as a group you have done, not just the official project. Explain about the job, what have you understood about the job. So before going to the job, our interview, you should understand what is the job, what are the requirements, what are the qualities that they expect in you, do I have those qualities, and all those things. So you have to match yourselves and say that I am going to be the perfect match for this job, and why you should select me when compared to the other people who might have applied for the job. So you need to talk about your skills, you need to talk about your matching with the job, you need to talk about your depth of the knowledge, you need to have a good language, and you need to impress the person who is sitting in front of you. But impressing is not the only thing. Expressing what you have, it has to impress the person. So just don't go with an intention of impressing someone in an interview, just go with an intention intention of expressing what you know. Be really what you are, and so you can be successful. So start preparing from now. Write your profile, write your resume, list your skills, understand what do you have for the various posts. If it is going to go to a clinical research company, how are you going to write for a particular job? If it is going to go to a clinical pharmacy post, how are you going to do? What are the things that you are going to talk about? And if it is going to go to an scientific writing, medical writing, or other companies, how are you going to project yourselves? So understand all these things and prepare your own curriculum vitae or a resume. Best wishes. Hare Krishna. Thank you.